So remember, I said there are a couple of things we want to do under preparing column for modeling. So one is we are going to make sure that we don't have null. And under that, I said we'll be identifying missing value, which we have done using info or is now. Then the second category, I said we are going to be identifying. So we're going to be converting fields from text data to numeric, and then turn field into numeric field. Then, of course, turn categorical field. Now, we are moving to the aspect of updating our column. Now, if you look at this, let's just look at the follower. The follower, you can see that the follower, we have certain information to update there. So we are going to fill. Remember that this particular data have excluded the missing value. I think if we want to work now, we look at this where we call out only the column or the row with missing value. So here now we want to update this. If we are updating this, it means that all the NaN in the followers column, let's assume that we want to change them to a constant value, which could be 0. Because when we look at the data itself in a cell, it shows that there was no record there. There was no follower. But in Python, it has translated to missing value. So for us to be able to do, for example, if we want to do aggregate analysis here, let's say we want to sum off or we want to analyze the total number of followers here, this NaN will be a problem. So for that reason, we have to use the fill now as one of the method for handling data to supply value for all the missing cell under follower. We are just focusing on this. You can actually do the same for age. So there are 2 columns here that requires a number to be given to them, the age and follower. But let's start with the follower. So let me simply call out the main data where we have all the missing value. I think it's this very one. Good. So let's work with the original one. So what we are doing here right now is updating, which is part of the column, is part of handling the data, updating the followers column. So what we are going to do, we will simply call the entire data set customer dot we call the follower header. Let me copy to avoid the error. If I copy it, having the issue. Let me type it. Then dots, the field now. So the emphasis is on this second data handling function, field now. Now we want to give them 0. All the NaN under follower, we want them to be substituted with NaN, sorry, with 0. So we run it. So you can see that with this, you called out only the follower's header, and then you substituted the value to what? 0. Did you understand what we just did now?
No, sir.
Now, what we are doing here is, let's start from here. Under followers, you can see that if you look at this column, we have 0.0, we have 12.0, then we have what? NaN, we have NaN, we have NaN. So the plan is that all the places where we have NaN, we want to substitute them with 0. That's what we did here. Did you understand?
Okay, okay. Yes, sir.
Mhm. We want to replace them with what? 0. That is the idea of what we just did now. Now, if you run the customer data again, for example, if I run the customer data again, you will notice that the changes has not been effected. You are still having the NaN, despite that you have already achieved that here, which means that you have to take this particular information and implement it on this data. So when next you call customer, it will have changed the NaN to 0. So what you did here now is that you just edited it, but you have not implemented it on the data set itself. So for us to do that, and remember I said we are applying the same thing to both age, because they are the two columns where we have the missing number. I just did only that one for you to understand. So, but in implementing it for all, we will include age. Are you back now? Can I continue?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay. Now, let's look at this. How to update. I'm about doing for age now because we have done for followers where we have missing value. Update age. So I will just simply customer as my data set name, and call out age column dot fill now as well. Dot fill now. Then I want to also find the median. Customer age. This is optional actually, but I just want to use it to check something. So now, why I called it this way is you can see that there are some places where we have like this 29.5. So at the end of the day, there's a function I want to introduce here, which is called round function, where you have all these floating number, it will round them off to a whole number. That is why I wrote the code this way. That is, if you look at the syntax, it's different from this. But it's not as if you cannot do it like this. It's just, I'm only trying to show you how to work with that in case there is need for that. So it's not compulsory you write it this way. You can simply write it the way you wrote for followers, just like this, where you pass in the value that should replace them. So now, the whole reason why I supplied that media is because I wanted to see a, a float number so that we will not know the impact of this round function, that we are wrapping the whole of that function inside. So the whole of this function now, to see if it will copy. It's not anaconda. Let me just manually type. Customer dot age dot fill now. Customer age dot media. So if I run this now, I want to look at this value and this value. What is the difference? The only thing we added is that we wrap the whole of this initial code inside round. Now I want you to compare the value we are getting. Are they the same? I can't hear you.
Yes.
They are the same.
Yes.
How are they the same? Look at this value and these values. Look very well. They are not the same. Check, check, check. They are not the same. Have you seen the differences? You have not seen the differences yet.
The six own.
Hmm?
The six is different.
I'm not hearing you. Your voice is low.
Six column.
The column. I cannot still hear you. What is the difference? You can use the comment section.
Number six. Number six is different.
Number 6 is different. So what do you think has made it different? What's happened there? What did you think happened that makes number 6 to be 30 as against 29.5? Can you factor out the function that causes the changes?
Yes, sir.
It's a round. Look at it here now. The round function. It's just like you are rounding up, just like you are saying that, okay, in mathematics, we are taught now. So you round up this 5. The function added it to 29, making it what? 30. So all the places where you have, that was no, apart from that, there are two places where we have decimal number. So it converted them to whole number. Did you understand that? Which are
Yes,
just
sir.
by number 5 and number 6 here. So the essence of bringing this wrap function is to, if there's any place where we have a floating number, it should round them up to a whole number. So it is your choice. That's why I said it is not compulsory you write it this way. You can simply do it the way I did the first one. I only wanted to, in case you have a display value and you want to round them up, all you need to do is to write the whole of, to envelope the whole of that code that will have produced the numbers inside round, and that function will help you to round them up to a whole number. So that is just for that. So the next thing we are going to look at is how to implement it, how to implement the whole of this in the read data set, because we found out that when we call back the customer, the initial update here did not reflect. So since it did not reflect, so we need to find a way of implementing it. So to implement it, what we are going to do, let me use comment to explain this. So implement, to apply the changes, to apply the changes. So we simply call the name of the data set .age equals to the round. So we are calling this one the round. We are putting it inside the function. Customer.age, which is like the same function that we wrote the other time to get the value for the age median. The field NA customer.age. Make sure you pay attention here because you are going to do your own as well. Then we are also, this one will update the main data. That is, we are saying that the whole of the results that you got from here for age should go to this data and update it with this value. Because here now there is no missing value. Now we want to do the same thing. In the same cell, you are writing all this. You are not going to the next cell. Customer.follower. I'm reflecting the one we updated for followers now. That will be equals to, then the code that we use there is what we are invoking here now, because the copy is not working as expected. That's why I'm retyping. If not, I would have just gone back to this, copy this and paste it. Then equals to customer. Okay, customer.followers. Followers dot fill now. Remember there we supply 0. So once I run this, so the data is updated now, in as much it did not throw you any error. So what has happened here is that this particular answer that you got here will be passed into this data. The particular answer you got here, where you no longer have, where you have replaced all the missing value with 0, will also be passed into what? The data set. So at the end of the day, if we want to confirm if we have successfully updated this data, then we call this data name again. You know, the last time I called it, it brought out this. Despite that I've done some changes here, those changes did not reflect, which means that those changes are stored within the program, but they are not in the data set. So now for us to confirm, let's call that data set again, customer. So this is where we'll know whether this code have actually worked. If I call it now, I want you to check now. Has it changed?
Yes.
What did you notice?
Number 6, he rounded it up.
Good. And there's no longer what? Missing value here. And there are also no what? Missing.
Missing.
These are the only two columns where we have missing value, right? That we are handling right now as data science. So I want you to share your screen and get to this place for me also. I don't want to depend on the assignment again now until your leg don't strong small. So share your screen. Let's see what you can do with. So I want to handle all those missing value to where I stop before we start converting numeric, because there are three things we outlined we want to achieve under preparing column for modeling. So we are through with how to check for missing value and how to handle missing value. So the next topic will now be converting test data to numeric. I'm waiting for you to share your screen so that you can perform the task. Okay, it's coming up now. Okay, like I said, I like using comment to explain what I'm doing at each stage. Now, what we are doing here is converting text data type to numeric, which is part of what you need to do. If I may just take you back a minute so that you know where we are coming from. I said preparing column for modeling. I mentioned two different things we want to be doing. I said after setting the rows granularity, you need to prepare your columns for modeling. So the essence of all these things, just like cleanup, what we are doing, it falls under data cleanup. If it is data analysis, this is what we call data cleaning. Just that this cleaning is more complex than the data cleaning we did in data analysis. Because here, our focus is to be able to make the data ready for predictive analysis, which we are going to learn under supervised. Because all these things that we are learning, they fall under on what? They fall under what? Let me know whether you still remember what we are doing. All these we are learning is falls under what?
Unsupervised learning.
And the unsupervised learning focuses on what?
Teaching the computer the model used to analyze data.
Okay. So, but if you look at it, it's about grouping, segmenting what? Data, right? For better
Yes.
modeling. Good. Now, I just want to recap so that you know where the next topic is coming from. I said all values should be null. And under this, I said we'll be looking at identifying missing value. We have done that. The result then by either removing them or imputing value. Have we done that? Either removing
Yes.
or imputing value. Which function did we use to remove them in case we want to remove them? But in this case now, this particular customer data now, I hope you know that we did not remove them. We what? We substituted them.
Oh, added.
But there was a place where we use which function to remove them, even though we did not later implement it. Do you still remember the function we use in removing them?
No.
Drop now. There's a place where I use drop now.
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Now, what it means is that let's assume that you are not interested in converting them or changing them to what? Zero. You just want to remove them from the entire data set. All these things we did will not be involved. You will just stop at the drop now. You will just stop here. Then the copy that you must have derived after dropping, you now save it as your final what? Data. But the reason why we could not go with this, because the NaN does not cut across all the column. We only have the NaN in some selected rows under each of the column. So it means that if we have removed the whole of this, it will affect when we get to the income, this value will be missing. This value will be missing, and the value is still needed in the data set. That's why you cannot remove. Instead, you find a way of handling them by substituting them with a number that will not influence the data, the record negatively. Like zero now, there's no way you add all this. If we have supply one now, then we can say that that will have a way of affecting the calculation that could be done under followers. Now, let's go back to the converting to text. Now, when you read data into, this is just like an intro. I will not be able to type all this. I think I should type it. Are you writing? If you're not writing, let me type so that when you are watching the video, you can make your notes.
No, I can make my note when I listen to the video. Don't worry.
Okay, good. So when you read data into a data frame, pandas we often read in numeric field. We often read numeric field as text, which is recognized as object data type, even though it's not supposed to be so. For example, all this income, if I pick this income now, if I ask you now, what type of data do we have under income? From what we are saying now, how does it look like? Does it look like a number or text? This, I'm just
The number.
the number, right?
Yes.
Now, we will find out now whether Python have actually recognized it as number. Because if you want to do calculation here now, you want to add this value now, which can only be number, or if you are using any function that works with adding of numbers, you see that Python will throw error that these are not number. Though to you, they look like number, but Python does not recognize them as number. Instead, Python recognizes them as objects, which means text. So how I'm going to find out, let's invoke that method that help us to analyze information about our data sets, which is dot what? Info, right? Which
Yes.
tell us the type of data. Now look at this data type. This D type means data type. Now that income that you said is number now, what data type is assigned to it? Trace it. Object, right?
Yes.
Which means that you are seeing it as number, but it's not number. So you cannot work with this model. When we get to supervise, where we'll be performing predictive analysis, we'll be having error if you are given the data like this until you recognize all the value according to their right data type. There are some analysis that will be throwing error. And that is the whole essence of this unsupervised, so that you can perfect the data so that it can fit into analysis model. So you can see that it's not number. If it is number, it will have been showing int, which stand for what?
Integer.
Good. So these are not integer. So now the next thing we are going to do now, we are going to use a function called to underscore numeric to convert it to integer. So therefore, let me put this one as comment. Therefore, therefore, to convert to numeric. So here now we are focusing on income to convert to numeric or numeric value or data type. Use to underscore numeric function. Numeric function. So here, what are we converting? We are just picking the income, for example, which we have identified that what data type is wrong. So if we are picking that, so we call the customer. So from customer, we are not working with the whole features. It's just the income column that we want to, select. So we use our selection. And then because the income column is a string, so we are going to recognize that with the quotation. Then we will now say that that should be equals to PD dot, because the function is from pandas, dot underscore numeric. Underscore numeric is a function, so it should carry its own bracket. Then you will now supply the name of the data is going to convert, sorry, the name of the column, customer, customer, customer. Inside customer, which of the column should be converted to numeric? You concatenate it with period dot income. You don't need to quote this because it's already a variable. You are not quoting this. It's a variable. It's already in the data set. So once I have done this, I will run the code. So there's error. So what is the error? Unable to what? To pass string. This at what position? 0. So let's troubleshoot to see what the error is. So I have customer equals to if my spellings are correct. Income, let me check. Let me check where the error is coming from. Okay, so the error here is the dollar sign. Is the dollar sign. You can see that it has captured this. So what we are going to do, we are going to first of all replace the dollar sign with nothing, because the dollar sign now is interpreted that as another data type. So let's focus on that first, of replacing the dollar sign with nothing. So what we are going to do, we will just simply type customer dot income. So we are selecting the income dot income dot str. So that is what is complaining. Str dot replace dot replace. Then I will call the dollar sign, then comma, you open an empty string, which means that what? It should be replaced with nothing. That is what we are trying to achieve here. Then dot str again, dot replace. So this is just for us to, now what you do, okay, let me just write everything, I will explain it. So here, I'll just put comma here, comma, and then colon empty. Now, what I have done here is that I call the income header and call the particular index. You know, it was complained of 0, which means that what? The first letter. Call the first letter, which is the dollar sign, and then you supply nothing. Now here, this is where you are replacing. Now this, why I have to call this string and replace again, so that this format that is like this, here now, I did not impute the dollar sign. Supposing it's another sign I want to replace, now I will observe it. So I left it what? That I left it empty, and then I also passed this empty. So if I run this code now, you see that what? It will call out all the values there. Now we are no longer seeing the dollar sign. Are you following? Are you following?
Yes, sir.
What did I do here now?
Remove the dollar sign.
Okay. Now that we have removed the dollar sign, if we run the data set now, if we run the data set, let's say we call the customer, we want to check if we have actually implemented the updates. We are still getting the what?
Customer.
No, we are still
The
getting
dollar sign.
good, good. So now, what do you think we will do?
Save the new
Eh?
data set without the dollar with a variable.
We say
Register it in a new variable.
in a new variable. Okay.
Yes.
So what you do for me now, I want to share your screen and get to this point quickly. Because that is aspect now. Once we have corrected it, we will end there. I don't want to give you serious assignments. We just go and reapply them. Whether you get or not, we'll continue in the next class. We will share your screen quickly. Now, just for us to finalize. Now, after this, you will notice that if you call the data now, you have not actually replaced it. So after running the above code, the data type is still remaining object, just like the way you just observe it now. So what we are going to do now is for us to implement that initial code we are trying to implement that was complaining of the dollar sign. That to what? To underscore numeric. So we'll now do pd dot to underscore numeric. Then we will now, it's a function. So we will add the whole of this code inside. We'll add the whole of this inside. We'll add it inside here. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So now if I run this code now, what did you see here now?
Integer.
So it's now finally what? Changed to integer. But if I still run, if I call that data now, so you'll be the one to tell us what to do here now. If I run this data now, if I run this data.info, this data.info. What is it showing here? Income is still showing what?
Object.
It means that what this update is not yet in the what? The data. You have not updated it. So that is the last thing we are going to do before we end the session. So we want to take this update where we have successfully converted the string object to what? Integer, and implement it in our data set. So that is the last thing we want to do. So now to update the data, so we'll simply call customer dot, which column are you updating?
Income.
So you call that income. The income equals to the whole of this code that generated this updated one. Then you paste it here. Do you understand it now?
Yes, sir.
Now let me run it now. So updated. What do I do to check if it's updated?
Call the customer.
Good. Good student. Oh yeah, check. Alpha. Is it updated?
Yes.
Now, but this is not how we will know. Which other code again do we need to run to know if they are actually integer?
Is it customer dot type?
Customer dot what? Look at the code that you
Type.
have here now that still show you that they are still objects. Dot what? Info, right? Are you with me?
Yes, yes.
So let me run it now. What do you get now? Trace the income again. What do you have there?
Integer.
So successfully. Any question on that?
Nope.
So at least you will not have too much tension today because you have confirmed some of those things as you are going.
Mm.
But you still go and do it with another data, or if you have a data that have NaN. If you don't have it, just create um, another notebook. You understand? You start
Yes.
data again and get here so that most of this function can properly sync. Because if you think that you know it now, as you did it just once now, as we are going forward now, you might be forgetting some. So at times, whether you are given an assignment or not, open another notebook, call the same data, and try to see if you can follow all this with a limited time. So if there is no question, then our next topic will be changing float to integer. So this very place where we have float, this number, that is followers. Where do we have float? We have float for each, right?
Page and followers.
Mm. So those are the next one we are going to work on, and we'll be using different functions also. So the idea is for you to be exposed to this data cleaning function, but under machine learning, we don't refer to them as data cleaning. We refer to them as
Modeling.
modeling. What type of modeling? Unsupervised modeling.
Modeling.
Supervised modeling. All right. So now, in case I am free outside the 2 days, any day, hope we can schedule class. Are you hearing me?
Yes, yes, you can. Thank you.
So anytime I feel that, okay, I'm free outside the 2 days, I'll just reach out to you so that for once we vacate from NIT, we might be having more meetings.
Okay.
So once, maybe like on the 15th, we'll have vacated. So we can be able to be having can meet like 4 times in a week, 5 times in a week, so that we can cover up before in the second week of January. We'll have know where we'll get to. So,
Okay.
all right, so have a nice day.
Thank you so much.